Hey folks, stuck in a dungeon, and just a short video today. I bought a forklift for $100. All right, yeah, let's take a look at what we got. Just leave it on. All right, so what we have is an Allis Chalmers forklift. 3,000 pounds. Comes with 40-inch forks, 42-inch forks, I think. Propane tank. You need some love. Let's see if I can get you in on a real close one there. All right, so I'm using that so word again. Got to work on that. The story on this is there's a auto repair shop that's literally, I don't know, 3 or 4 blocks from the house, and just before we took off for the keys, they posted a for sale sign on the shop, and so I stopped in, and I'd had some work done on my F-250. And was talking to the owner. It's like, you know, I see that the shop's up for sale, and hey, I've been driving by there every day seeing this forklift. I said, you know, would you want to sell that? And he said, yeah, I'd sell it real cheap. And I said, how cheap? And he said $100. And so I handed him a $100 bill, and you know, we had some conversation about that, and I just said, you know, hey, I'm getting ready to go to the keys for a month, and so it's going to sit until I get back and I can get back around to it. And he said, nah, no problem. Well, we come back from the keys, and then there's a pending sign on the for sale sign, and you know, like, oh, well, I better get in there. And probably took another week before I actually made it in there, and talked to the guy, and he's like, yeah, we're having an auction on the 15th, and that thing needs to be gone before then. I'm like, okay. And so yeah, $100 for a forklift. I didn't even know what brand it was. I didn't care. You know, it had 42-inch forks on it. It had a propane bottle on it, and so, you know, there's $300 in value just in those things, and so $100 I wasn't out anything if I just took the propane tank and the forks, or I could scrap it. You know, I think this thing weighs a little over 6,000 pounds, so you know, I could make $300-400 in scrap if I wanted to. So anyhow, back to the story. And I didn't videotape any of this. I'm sorry, because it was really kind of a, you know, he said, hey, you got to get this thing out of here. I said, okay. And so started looking into this. And my original plan was just to, you know, like I said, I'm like 4 blocks away. I was just going to hook onto it with a tow strap and drag it to the house, and then I could take my sweet time about getting it running. Now the story is that this thing had been running, and then about 10 years ago, he parked it. And he parked it because the brakes weren't working. Brakes still don't work. So yeah, so I came back, and you know, first thing I did is I went and filled the propane tank. That was 25 bucks. The battery was 10 years old. It was obviously shot. Went and bought a new battery. It was $199. That really hurt to spend twice as much for a battery than as I did for the whole forklift. And then, you know, just started working into it. You know, is it going to turn over? And you know, this has a set of 2 switches on it that are not original. You know, they're after the fact that somebody did, and it's a push button start. And so first thing we did is, you know, can we get this thing to crank? And you know, with the new battery, you know, initially I couldn't get it to crank, and you know, messing around, and come to find out, you know, there's a 30 amp fuse missing here. Okay, well, that's easy enough. Put the 30 amp fuse in, and it's cranking. Like, okay, well, that's a start. So it's not froze up. went ahead and took the distributor cap off, cleaned the points, and then, you know, all right, let's see if we can get some spark. And so spraying a little bit of ether down in there, and initially we got some spark, and it actually was doing a little humping. Yeah, oh, here we go. And the fact is, we actually got it to fire and run for a second off of that, and then no more spark. You know, it was like, dang it. Oh, and I need to back up. Yeah, so it was about that time that I thought, okay, let's put the propane back on it, and it had a hard line. You can see now that it's got a nice. Can you turn that over there? You know, instead of a hard line, we've got a, just a regular old propane line. That's not permanent. We all know that there's nothing so permanent as a temporary fix. Yeah, it's permanent. The hard propane line had a good leak in it, and so first thing I did is I cobbled together something out of some air hose that I had, and that leaked. The one end was good, the other end leaked like crazy, and so I thought, well, okay, I'm just a couple blocks from a propane place. Went there, they couldn't help me. Suggested another propane place a few miles away. Went there, and they had this hose for 21 bucks. Bought the hose. The regulator, actually, while we were trying to get the original hose off, we wound up breaking off the overpressure relief valve, the OPV. That was broken off. So I brought the regulator back home with me. I was able to get the broken nub of pipe off. Was able to get that fixed. Got it all put back on there. It still has a very small leak. You can smell propane when it's running, but it allowed me to get it here. So anyhow, now we've got propane, but we don't have fire anymore. Went and bought a new coil, and that was $17. I think it was $17 or $18. It wasn't very expensive. Put a new coil on it. Still no fire. Now I was smart enough to actually have Cindy take a picture beforehand. I said, get that picture back out, and I'm looking at the picture. There's 4 wires on the positive terminal of the coil, and I only have 3. So I had to search around. I found the 4th wire, put that on, and all of a sudden we got fire. And so the guy there at the shop, he'd come over and spend 15 minutes with me, kind of helping me troubleshoot this and get it running. And before you know it, it was going. It was actually running. I could engage the. It's a hydrostatic drive, so you reverse, forward, and I could engage the drive, and it would start to move. And I thought, okay. So this is like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They've got construction on the main street, and so the side street where I live is just crazy busy all day long. And so we went back to the house until about 7:30, and the traffic eased up. Went back down there, it was after dark now, and started it up, and told Cindy, I was like, hey, I need you to block off that road so nobody can drive into me as I'm pulling this thing around. Again, there are no brakes. And started easing this thing out, and off we went. And the steering's a little loosey-goosey. It was a bit of an exciting ride. The throttle linkage is not working. It does have this creep feature, which I didn't know about at the time as I've done a little more research, but I haven't had a chance to actually mess with it. And so, long and short, we drove it home, and here it's been sitting here for what, 3 days, 4 days. That was Thursday night, and today's Sunday. So it starts, it runs, but it's got a few issues. Let's talk about those issues. All right, I'm gonna bring it right up here. All right, so number one issue and chief issue that I want to try to fix, it has no brakes whatsoever. It has an emergency brake. There's nothing there, it doesn't work. The brake brakes don't work. And like I said, the guy stopped using it because the brakes didn't work. It does have good oil pressure. The water pump is working. It was maintained at a good temperature. It wasn't overheating. So I'm happy with that. It does have a throttle, but that linkage is totally disconnected. And here's the linkage here. And that goes to a control arm here that goes all the way back. And so basically I've got to tear all the bearings off of this to find that linkage and try to figure out, troubleshoot what's going on with that. It's got a little light up here. I'll probably replace that with a small LED because, you know, there's a lot of times that I'm working at night and, you know, having some good lights would be really handy. Seat's in good shape. The forks. This is a September of 1979 vintage Allis Chalmers. Let me see what the model number is. I don't remember. AKH. No, that's the serial number. What is it? Hold on. ACP30. Yeah, ACP30 LPS. So it had long forks. Got 42-inch forks. 3,000-pound capacity. Would like to have a 4,000-pound capacity, but honestly, everything that's in my shop is less than 3,000 pounds. So this will do. Forks do go up. They do go down. Come on in here. One of the biggest things I see on forklifts, and I've owned several, is that your cylinders get worn and nicked and the seals are bad. Well, man, those things are beautiful. No leaks there. When I do the tilt, I got a little bit of a leak out here, and so I'm not sure if, and I see a little bit of, you know, it looks like we've had a long-term leak here, and I don't know whether that's a seal. Look right here. And I don't know whether that's a seal or whether there's a connector that's leaking. I don't know, but we're going to dig into that and see what it is. Those are fairly small cylinders, so I might actually, you know, it probably cost me $500 to get them rebuilt. I think I could probably do it myself. I might do that. It'd probably be an interesting project. I've never done that. So I want to get that fixed. Tires are really in good shape. They're a pneumatic tire, so, you know, I could take this on gravel and not be overly concerned about it. So yeah, again, the propane, let's come over here, see if I can knock my drink over. So here's your propane regulator right here, and so I'm getting a leak. So these are all good, but I'm leaking here. And this is frozen, so I literally have to take the bracket and everything off. So that's, I need to do that. That's a safety issue. Otherwise, I'm going to wind up, you know, getting flamed out. But overall, you know, the thing starts, it runs. I'm pretty happy with it. Let's see if I can get it to run right now. Propane, switch on, switch off. We're in neutral. That's just that it is. I haven't done anything to the engine. Starts, idles. So, yeah, right now I'm just shy of $400 in this. I figure I'll probably be at $1,000. Other accessories, when I came south, I had a set of 96-inch fork extensions. I kept those because I figured at some point in time I'll get into a forklift again. And man, am I glad I did, because those will fit right on here. I've got a couple more of the propane tanks. I brought those, and basically anything that was smaller, I took off of my other forklifts. I had 2 up north that I sold when I moved, and so here we are. So anyhow, this is going to be more projects. What we need, more projects. I've got to be careful what I do over the next probably month or so. Wound up tearing a muscle in my abdomen a couple days ago, and so can't really do any heavy lifting or anything for next month or so. So anyhow, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next time.